Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Canada Hoops. It's your boy, Maddie. Thank you for your continued support. Please keep downloading and sharing us. Visit our YouTube channel. Hit us up on Instagram and X.com. Our guest today represents Toronto, Ontario. He is a former McGill Redbird and is currently the director of high performance analytics and strategy for the senior men's national team for Canada basketball. And of course, he was part of the coaching staff for the senior men's national team for the 2023 World Cup and the 2024 Paris Olympics for Canada basketball. He is Philip Jevtovic. Phil, thank you so much for joining us on Canada Hoops, man.
Maddie, thanks so much for having me, man. Really excited.
Yeah, me too, man. You've been doing a lot for the program over the years, maybe behind the scenes, but those with the program and obviously those that follow it closely know your role is very important and crucial. A lot of people talk about your work. How are things, Phil, man? Just let our listeners know and your friends and family just how you're doing, where things are at for you as we kind of wind the year down.
No, I appreciate that, Maddie. Things are going well. December's probably one of the quieter months of the whole year cycle for us. So really an opportunity to kind of, while we still have some things going on, we have our junior academy program here in Ontario this weekend. We'll be out in Mississauga, so excited to see those kids. But for the most part, local, not a lot of travel, just hanging out with family, friends, catching up with everybody that haven't seen as much of in some of the other months. So it's a really good time, but it's also a time to kind of get reset and ready to hit the ground running again in January in 2025. So looking forward to that as well.
Love it, man. And I know you do a lot like with junior academy and other camps. I think I saw you were out our way here in Calgary in the fall running a camp. Like you're seeing all age groups and you're going right from academy level all the way up to the senior men's national team with the likes of Shea and others. What like just walk me through that just in terms of just getting a sense of the game and the country and obviously just seeing, the passion for it and just the growth of the program, man.
Yeah, I think this is one of the things that I've been the most fortunate and kind of lucky to have an opportunity to do that is really Canada Basketball is a unique organization because we are really small, like men's high performance specifically, 5 full-time people operating in that. And we really do work with athletes as young as our junior academy program, which is grade 7 and 8 here in Ontario. We have it in a couple of other provinces across the country. And then, like you said, all the way through to the senior national team. So being able to see those athletes that come in like when they're so young, but then, every single year we have Michael Meeks and I talk about this in the fall when we have our tryouts, and we usually have them here at Humber College or open ID camps at Humber College in Toronto. And the level of like individual skill coming in to all of these, just like every year, just a little bit higher. It's incredible to see kind of the growth of the athletes across here in Ontario, but across the country. And then bringing those athletes into our junior academy, where it's an opportunity for them to be involved in our podium pathway. Like, what does it mean to be a national team athlete for the first time? And these are some of my most fun experiences, is working with these kids on a monthly basis. We have a couple of overnight sessions. Actually, this one here this weekend is going to be an overnight session, and the kids are always a little nervous, and parents, are calling and they're saying, oh, he hasn't been away from home ever. How's it going? It's going to be fine. We create a really good, safe and structured environment, but it does push them out of their comfort zone. And we have amazing staff here, like, Scott Waith, known by many as Boogie, Master Jedi Coach Scott, who's a coach, DJ, absolute legend here in Ontario that runs a lot of our kind of manager operations. He has the kids moving around. Everyone's moving to a beat and organized, and it's a fun experience for them, but we do push them and challenge them. And it's really, really rewarding to see those athletes then come back and credit some of their junior academy experience and then come back at U16, U17, U18, U19 through the programs. And then, some of them will play in the U23 in the Global Jam over the years. And then seeing them put on a senior men's national team jersey has been a special moment as well. So really, really just fortunate to have experiences across our pathway, given the structure of our program and our organization. And I'd say kind of the opportunity to follow these guys through their various stages of development, see the ups and the downs, and then all of their experiences is one of the coolest parts of the job for sure.
Yeah, it's really cool, like to see kids love it, and obviously get this opportunity, and they're working towards big goals to play at the highest level for the program, and I think that's where the buy-in really starts at that age, where you get players want to, you know, commit to World Cups and commit to the Olympics. So a real kudos to the program and the likes of yourself and others on the staff to implement that. And then you go all the way back, or not all the way back, but last month to the FIBA Americup
Okay.
qualifiers in Saskatoon. So there's the program at a high level. Obviously,
Yeah.
just talk about the senior men's national team right now with
Yeah.
respect to the Americup and kind of where things are at. Two more qualifiers in February, I
Yeah.
believe, right? And looking
Yeah.
forward to that Americup tournament in the summer, man.
Big time. No, we're really excited about that. Those guys that come into all the senior men's national team guys, the sacrifices that they make to be a part of the program, and then these guys that are coming into these windows in November and February, like these guys are unbelievable. Like the
Yeah,
travel that they go through to come from everywhere on the planet, short window. So many guys arrived. I think it was like Monday of our window back in Saskatoon, and our first game was on Thursday. We had 5 new players, I believe it was, that haven't played on the senior men's national team. A bunch of the guys were in U23 in various different age groups, but short period of time. Coach Nat Mitchell did an incredible job sort of getting us organized and really putting in what we needed to do. But the commitment of those guys, like the camaraderie and the teamwork that you can just see, like everyone coming together in a short period of time, wanting to spend time together, really embracing that experience. And it was cold in Saskatoon. It was
yeah,
snowy, but the guys stuck together and they really sort of took advantage of that. And I think we grew as a group, and a lot of guys had a really good window for us. And those were two really big wins. Not without challenges. Like both Dominican and Mexico are really good, and Mexico made it interesting there in the fourth quarter, well, throughout the game, and a little bit of a push and having our guys rally but stay together. And you saw sort of other guys step up and leaders, and then Trey and Co sort of take it home late in the fourth quarter was incredible. And we're really excited looking ahead to February as well, getting back on the road and going to Mexico and Dominican. Selfishly, I know it's a long travel for many, but these are some of my favorite moments, is because you get to really, represent the country and go to these places that you might not have as much of an opportunity to visit otherwise, and play in a hostile crowd with everyone booing over you, and really the emotions. It's awesome. So no, we're in a really good place. It's been an incredible run, and excited to keep pushing. We were a little bit short of our goal this summer at the Olympics, and we're itching to get back into contention here over the next couple of years. And these windows are that next step, with the Americup as well in the summer. We're really, really excited about it. It's going to be a great opportunity. Of course, we still got to take care of business in February, but looking ahead to that tournament, a really good opportunity for us to continue growing and giving opportunity to some athletes that might not have had an opportunity as much to participate in some of our senior team camps and competitions. And following guys, like we're always tracking our Canadian pros, college players, and seeing those guys, like the level of impact these athletes are having. G League, NCAA, NBA, international pro. Like, shout
yeah,
out Trevel Haynes again, man. 35
yeah.
points against Barcelona yesterday in a win. Like, come on, it's unbelievable. What a performance. So it's incredible to see these guys doing their thing.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned TBH joined us, a friend of ours, and it was interesting. Some of the chatter heading into Saskatoon was like, just from the nerds like myself, that was
Yeah,
like, holy smokes, there's no Phil Scrub, Tommy Scrub, or
yeah,
Uncle Mel, no Melvin
yeah,
Edgem. So it was kind of a changing of the guard in a sense, and not to say they won't ever play again, but it became kind of clear that Trey was a leader and a senior
yeah.
guy. Just from a coaching staff standpoint, was that something that was kind of not in the forefront, but obviously you guys are aware of it. Like Rowan's got to make connections and put calls out to guys to have guys come commit, and then I'm sure Nate and others like yourself have a say on the roster and guys coming in. But was it a discussion point just to not have some of these vets there for that window?
Yeah, so obviously like Rowan and Michael Meeks, GM and assistant GM, are always maintaining the most lines of communication with these athletes on a regular basis, whatever leagues they're playing in with all these guys. And then Nat Mitchell, of course, and Nate Mitchell with all of his connections from years of being sort of, whether it was starting in the player development and national training center and assistant coaching, building relationships with all these guys over the years and really having a good feel. So the three of them manage sort of those most regular touch points and bases with the guys. And that's kind of how it sort of shaped out for this window. There's always something that, that comes up and circumstances. And like, I mean, I don't have to tell you, but Tommy and Phil having played 12 out of 12 games in the World Cup qualifiers in 2023 and really being leaders for us in that group. And, various things happen in a specific window. And the 14 guys that were there in Saskatoon, and then really stepping up and being ready and competing for that group were amazing, that were there. Yeah.
Yeah, like it. I know, Tommy and Phil got young families too. There's lots of things that play in that. But and it was cool to see, some new blood come in, man. That was exciting. A guy like Nate Darling, we haven't seen him since U19. I think a lot of us enjoyed that, and just with the depth. I know the senior men's national team going into the next window and then into the summer too. Some cool things ahead for that team, no question, man.
Oh, 100%. It was awesome to get Nate in the fold. And then I think there was that moment when, and shout out to the broadcast as well that called it out. I think it was when we had TK, Quincy, and Marcus all on the court at the same time. And there was the U23 connection, from the Global Jam through lines coming in through there. So you see the various different, even though these guys hadn't been in a senior national team jersey. Well, obviously TK has, but from Quincy and Marcus' standpoint, but still in the program, still knowing what's going on. And I always like, now it's a little bit of a flow, but I'm always like, the amount of time that we have to prepare for these games relatively, like, it's so short. And then how focused and kind of together this group is to really be able to deliver and execute. Like, we got a lot of stuff in that short period of time. They embraced the challenge and they ran with it. And it's always really cool to see that come to fruition.
Yeah, no kidding. Man, take me back. You start loving the game and growing up in Toronto. Just talk about that, how it starts to come into your life and, why basketball grabbed you, man.
Yeah, no, for sure. So I was a kid that played a variety of different sports growing up. I grew up in the west end of Toronto in High Park area, and there's hockey rinks there. So I'd played a little bit of hockey with the guys in my primary school classes. Soccer, I loved soccer. I played tennis. I didn't really start playing basketball probably until about grade 6 and 7. And I was so my background is my parents immigrated to Toronto from Serbia in the early 90s. And I was really fortunate to be able to go back and spend many summers in Serbia. My grandparents lived there, my aunts, uncles, and my grandfather on my mom's side had some heart issues growing at a certain stage of his life. And he built this like little cottage I would kind of describe it as almost like if you're in the greater Toronto area, it's kind of like a Blue Mountain equivalent. So maybe about 2 hours or so from the city. But if you it's like it was the only house on that entire area, like 50, 60 years ago. And he brought him there. The air was clean and he was able to kind of go. So I spent like every summer, like 2-3 months, I would literally, the bell would ring and I'm like at the airport going to this cottage, and we'd spend so much time there, which was incredible. And I got immersed in the language and the culture. Obviously, basketball is not a sport in Serbia. It's a passion. It's a way of life. It's built into the culture of everything that happens in there. And over the years, like every year I'd come back, a few more cottages would get added into the landscape, and there's basketball courts that started getting built. And there was a camp there by this former Yugoslavian basketball player called Miroslav Picarski, who had a basketball camp there, and they had like 5-6 outdoor courts. So then I started, my mom said, okay, hanging out's nice, but go, do something a little bit different. And that's really where I started to get into it. And I was like awful at the start.
Right.
these kids have been playing for years, the European style of play, the ball was moving. I was like, what the heck is going on? But really that kind of ignited my love and passion for it. And the best part obviously was every summer I'd spend there 2-3 months getting better. I'd come back to Canada and play with my friends, and okay, I was feeling a little bit better. I could score a little bit easier, do different things, move the ball. So that kind of growth and development was where I really started to fall in love with the sport. I played here for a club called Toronto 5-0. For Coach Vlad Matevsky, who does a lot of player development work in the city for many, many, many years. He's worked with many of our senior men's national team guys for years, Dwight Powell, among many others. And he was my coach at kind of OBA club back in the day for many years. And we had it was like Team Eastern Europe kind of. We had some I think we had 5-6 Serbian guys, Romanian guy, and a few guys. In terms of number of guys that ended up playing post-secondary, it was pretty cool. So we had Stefan Nastic, who ended up playing at Stanford with Dwight Powell.
Right.
Made that NCAA tournament run. He was on our team. Stefan Svrka, who played with CJ McCollum at Lehigh when they beat Duke in March Madness, was on our team. Stevan Manojlovic, who played at Drexel and then played back at Western here, and a couple of guys that played U Sports. So it was a pretty good group. And that's really where it continued to be stoked, my kind of love and desire to get better and grow in basketball. And that became the sport in high school. And then I ended up going to McGill and I played for Coach Dave DeVero, played very liberally. I sat on the bench for 2 years, pretty much. I used the word played liberally here, but was on the bench with Coach DeVero for 2 years at McGill. And honestly, Maddie, I got cut going into my third year of university. He recruited his second year at McGill was my first year. So we brought in a huge new recruiting class. It was his first kind of chance to make an impact and an imprint on the team. There's a bunch of us, and some of us lasted 2 years, and a bunch of us got replaced. And a new group ended up coming in when I was in third year. And Dave kind of said, hey, that's that. But if you want to just stick around and do analytics and stats for the team, do it. So I said, well, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear here, Maddie, but my first reaction was F you, Dave.
Yeah.
And then I went home and thought about it a little bit. And I'm incredibly fortunate my parents were very supportive, and they said, why don't you see what it's like? All my boys were still on the team. So I was like, okay, well, let's see what this whole stats thing is about. I literally just took box score stats in practice my first year. I sat on the side on my laptop and was just taking box score stats. And it was like a running joke because obviously these are all my guys still that we're playing with that were still on the team. And they'd hit a three and make sure they'd look over that I got the assist because coach would use that in feedback he was providing. So we always had a little bit with that. And then I did that for 2 years, growing and roll a little bit with Dave DeVero. And it's funny, we had a guy that I was in, that was in my residence at McGill, was a computer science, talented, one of those guys that just inherently talented at programming, computer science. And Sam Hinkie hired him to go to the Philadelphia 76ers as an intern, not because of his purely just because he was an incredible programmer. Yeah. And he came back that summer after his internship and was like, this was incredible. Look at all the stuff that they're doing in Philadelphia with basketball analytics, tracking and monitoring, all of that stuff. And I was like, whoa, this is actually a thing, a job, a possible career that you could take. And obviously it was growing at this time. So this was the early 2010s, and the Houstons and baseball had been using analytics for a long time, but it was really starting to become more of a thing in basketball. So that was another kind of luck circumstance that this guy, then we brought him onto McGill to just kind of help our little analytics department as well. And he put in some new tools and software that we started using. And it for me was really a way to stay involved in the sport that I did love. And I found this other way. I wasn't really going to get hired probably as a coach or anything like that at that point. So for me, it was keep your foot in the door. No one else is doing this really in my context that I was looking around from an analytics standpoint, definitely in U Sports. And then I was really lucky because, again, circumstance, Dave then said it was spring of 2015, right before I graduated from McGill. And Dave was the head coach of the U16 team with RJ, Andrew Nemhart,
Yeah.
Simi Shitu, Danilo, like all those guys. And he said, hey, come to the camp, help out with analytics, just like we do at McGill. And that's where I had an opportunity to meet Rowan, Meeks, and the guys that I work with to this day. And they didn't have anybody do it. I came in April, and it was like pen and paper stats on the sideline for some of those teams. So little wins here and there, the ability to change some of the things that we did. And when I moved back to Toronto, I worked full time in finance for a little bit, and on the side, like evenings, Meeks would call me, and we'd get in the gym and help work out players. With junior academy sessions. I'd take vacation when there was training camp, and we'd kind of fill it in. And I was really lucky that the men's high performance program at Canada Basketball opened a full time position in the fall of 2016 for a performance analyst, and because I'd sort of had done some stuff with them over the year, built a little bit of a rapport and connection, I applied for that and was able to get that. And it's been a crazy ride ever since, but a lot of luck, a lot of timing. Getting cut was, I guess, in hindsight, a fortunate circumstance. Otherwise, I'd probably still be working in finance or something. So yeah, it's been fun.
That's a great story, man. Like just how it laid out, man. Everything, I'm a big karma believer, if you will, and speaking things maybe into existence. So I just think that's, you obviously worked hard at it and, developed a passion and a skill for it. And so now when you're in that role, Phil, like there's a lot, at practices, looking at data, but like when you're on the bench, like how much now, like just even last month in Saskatoon,
Yeah.
like that's a key part for you. But now are you more in that sort of straight assistant role? Like how does it sort of blend now, man?
Yeah, totally. And it's grown a lot over time. So I'll take the liberty to take you back a little bit again to
Yeah.
how it's evolved. But when I got hired in 2016, my first senior men's national team trip ever was the AmeriCup in 2017.
Okay.
And that was Roy Rana was the head coach of that team. And we took that team down to Bahia Blanca, Argentina, where we had some of those games. Good team looking back, like Andrew Nicholson, Deshaun Pierre, EuroLeague, Xavier Rathan Mays, EuroLeague. There's a bunch of other guys on there, Rock, Olivier Hanlon. It was a good team. And that was like, it was a little bit sort of, having Rowan's support and his vision of saying, okay, we need to embrace data-driven approaches and analytics into our decision-making processes as an organization, as a national team program. And for us, it's always been about, okay, how can we use some of this data, this information that we're collecting to help inform the decision-making? It's never going to be a replacement for expert coaching. It's never going to be okay, because the numbers say this is what we're going to do. But the way we've thought about it and how I think we've had a little bit of success with it is, like many other organizations, is this is one input. The expert evaluation is another input. You have a couple of others, and all of this is part of the framework that helps you make decisions and move forward. So there was a little bit of pushback, I think, early on, Maddie, when I was included in that coaching staff. So shout out Rowan, because I don't think it would have, if he was just kind of like, all right, fine, we'll just keep him in the office. I think that my career trajectory would have been quite different. But that was, and then the open-mindedness of, Roy and other coaches on the staff to be like, all right, well, let's just figure it out. So literally that first year, I would just sit in coaches meetings and just listen, pretty much. Like I would occasionally get asked, some numbers. I'd give number, I don't know, probably weren't being consumed much at that time. And actually a little bit of a funny aside too, but Jay Triano was there as a mentor, advisor on the trip. And I remember we had our first ever coaches meeting, and I was like eager, nervous, excited. I remember I had this like report with like numbers and like diagrams that I sent the coaches and Jay. And he kind of said, yeah, it's a little, nothing bad, but along the lines of like too much data, too many graphs. Like, I don't want to look at this. And I was like, ooh, okay, fair enough. So, I mean, learning for me to be able to say, okay, actually you can't just throw numbers and graphs and charts and expect individuals to read that. So it's more like, okay, how are you incorporating the data that you're finding with video in a way that's understandable by the decision makers in the language that they're used to. And like, I got to build trust from the get-go to show that I have some understanding of basketball and what we're talking about first. So that really was helpful for me to kind of change and reorient what I was thinking about. But a lot of listening early on. And then we started our World Cup qualifying windows. So that fall, it was November 2017. We were in Halifax and Dominican. We played Bahamas and Dominican. And then a little bit of growth with every window. It started with listening, learning, and being like, okay, the coaches are talking about transition defense. Is there anything that I can incorporate from the numbers that I have, the video that I have, that can maybe help them in this discussion at all? To eventually, as we go through the windows, in February 2018, Gordy Herbert coached that team in the Bahamas. And then, moving back to the summer with Jay, there's little things that now I'm getting turned to and say, okay, we're talking about this. Phil, what's the number? What are we looking at? And then slowly growing a role and a voice in some of those areas. Being involved with Junior Academy, being involved with our age group teams was also huge for me, because another opportunity to practice and get reps and really find my voice in some of these areas. And then that role grew as well with our summer teams in the World Cup and the Olympics. My role was specific in terms of ensuring that our coaching staff had access to the information that we would sort of identified as key components of our offensive and defensive system, and figuring out ways to sort of track and then communicate our progress and our success in some of those areas. And like Maddie in FIBA, like it's like 2-game windows, or the most games is like the 8 games that we played in the World Cup when we won the bronze medal. But it's like in those 8 games, small sample size, you could be like, one game, your efficiencies and your ratings and whatever you want to look at is like crazy because you made a few shots, and then the next game you miss a few shots. But so we really have been kind of trying to emphasize as well the process stats of what we're looking at. So not just like whether the ball goes in and through the basket, but like, what was driving our offensive efficiency? Was it getting into the paint? Was it moving the ball side to side? Like all of those kind of things. So I'd be responsible for tracking that, communicating that to the coaches, video that relates to that. I would help our advanced scout, John Goodwillie, and our assistant coach and video coordinator, Connor Griffin as well, who is doing some of the personnel scouts and edits. So I'd help with that. I'd help the coaches, personnel, variety. Like at this point too, it becomes like, all of that. And then whatever else is needed, you're on the court, you're rebounding, you're playing defense, you're playing offense. Those are some of the most fun times too. Cause for you get to get into it a little bit and kind of take, that's like almost like our Super Bowl is. I remember Connor Griffin and I were laughing the day before, a couple of days before we played France in the World Cup in our opening game. We had to run, like we were running some of France's offensive sets, and it was like game time, baby. Like it's, we're not, I'm limited, basketball wise. I can do a little bit of stuff, but it was so fun to kind of get on the court with those guys and just help that group. So variety of different tasks as needed, to now where I've been fortunate again, the trust that Rowan and Meeks and Nathaniel have had the trust to put me in a place where I'm involved with a little bit more coaching on the court. So this window I was helping Nathaniel on the offensive end in Saskatoon. So he had a set of, we had things we wanted to run offensively, and figuring out how to get all those organized, implementing some of those in practice, providing feedback, obviously really short windows. So it's been a really cool development pathway for me, and I've been grateful for all kind of the support, definitely through ups and downs of various different things as I was kind of growing in it. But it's been really fun.
Yeah, great story. I know, like, you've been around a lot of coaches now, whether it's head coaches or assistants. Who's become in that coaching role like a mentor for you, and just maybe they have philosophies or approaches that you're trying to adhere to and use as well, man.
No, for sure. And as an aside, like again, that what you just mentioned, we were talking about this the other day, I think with Nat Mitchell too, and it was like the amount of head coaches so I started in Canada basketball in 2018, fall of 2016. So it's been 8 years plus. And like, I think it was like 8 or 9 head coaches or so of the senior men's national team only, from like Roy in the early days to Jay, to Gordy Herbert, to Nathaniel Mitchell, to Nate Bjorkgren, to Nick Nurse, to Jordy Fernandez, and then all the age group coaches with Dave Smart, everybody across the board, like having the like opportunity to learn and listen and grow through those experiences has been unbelievable. Everybody approaches that, the windows and the preparation and the way they use analytics and video a little bit differently. So that's been cool too, to learn about, okay, some guys want it in a specific way, some guys want it a little bit differently. I think to answer your question specifically, in terms of some of the coaches, I mean, when I started at Canada Basketball, Michael Meeks and I shared an office. We were in the same space. It was like this little drywall kind of blocked off area, and we would get in there, we'd slam the door shut, and we would emerge hours later after discussions and video. And those were some of the craziest days, that like the late great Greg Francis that would come in as well. And this was what happened. We'd walk in, Maddie, in the office, it'd be like 9 a.m. and Greg would walk by. He'd give us a little what up. He'd throw his bag in his office and he'd come in and he'd close the door, and we had a third chair there for him. And we'd just sit and like talk about anything, like basketball, anything.
Nice.
We watch video. We talk about the Canadian players.
Yeah.
A little bit too often, we watch Meeks and Canisius playing Greg back in NCAA. And we're like, okay, guys, I get it. Like, it was a competitive rivalry. We watched this video like 8 times. But those early days of just like listening to those guys, being able to throw ideas at them, learn from them, grow from them. So like Meeks, tremendous. Rowan would come in then. We'd continue the discussions, and they get that he heated and passionate the wall. You start, Rowan, how Rowan brings his energy. So he's hitting the wall and the whole office is shaking and everyone in Canada goes, what the hell is going on? But those were incredible learning experiences, continue to be through this day. I've known Nathaniel Mitchell now for many, many years. I used to do some training and development at Scatting Court Community Center here in Toronto, and John Clara, legendary Toronto Canadian kind of coach that was been in the city. Nathaniel was there, like doing player development stuff in some of our practices. This was probably like 2007, 8, sometimes around then. So I remember seeing Nathaniel then, and then him in his various different spots through his career. So being able to follow his growth and throw ideas off of him and learn from him has been tremendous. Then, to this day, the coaches that we have, I've always been like, Gordy Herbert to me has been an incredible, I know I don't speak to him, and we always talk relatively regularly, but not, from a like conversation standpoint necessarily, but more just like following his career and how he's been able to like everywhere he goes, the team has success pretty much. So like his system, the way he sort of drives growth in a team and in a really simple but effective way. Like every time he's come in, it's been incredibly clear but simple. His message, his style of play, the way he builds a team and kind of connects a group, and that's been really, really cool to see. Nick learned a lot from the years we were working with Nick Nurse, and then Jordy here over the last couple of years as well has been tremendous. He's such a good connector of people, and learning how he built relationships in a short period of time. Like he was there only a few weeks before he got hired, a few weeks before we started the World Cup cycle. Yeah. So that's been really, really cool. Man, too many to mention. I think when I initially started, the last one I would say is what I learned from Roy was just the urgency, the attention to detail and urgency you approach a job and a task with. Roy was incredible at kind of emphasizing that. So bits and pieces from everyone, man, like not one thing, but incredibly like lucky to have all of these various different pieces of the puzzle as we've gone through it.
Like there's been a lot of conversations from other guests on episodes about, just obviously the growth of the players, right? Yeah. And the talent pool on both the men's and women's side, which has absolutely exploded. But behind the scenes is the coaches, right? And player development and vital, obviously, as well. That, others know that. And you just mentioned a whole lot of names that have made a huge impact. And, players and the program wouldn't be where they are without these coaches, man. So it's cool to get that take. A guy like Gordy probably doesn't get recognized enough. Iconic, and
yes,
Roy and Nate and others. Like, holy smokes, man! Like it's really cool, right? And that development's got to happen. I know that's a priority for the program all the time with developing coaches, and
huge for us, 100%.
Yeah, awesome. Man, we've talked a lot of Canada basketball, which we love here on the podcast, and we love to talk with people that have coached the program or played for it. Coaching for you, Phil, and the analytics and represent your country? Like, what does that mean to you, man?
It's an incredible honor. I talked a little bit earlier about the privilege of working with the young athletes and following their progression through the various different stages and having a small part at certain different junctures of their development. Some of the best relationships that I've built have been with some of those guys that have come through our junior academy, and then you keep seeing them every couple of months. They come back, and I think what our group, again, led by Rowan and Bartlett and co over the years, has created really sort of a family feel with the Canada basketball program, from the National Training Center in the summers being a point where athletes can come, guys can come back, get better, no obligation, but it's there for you. We're always there for you whenever you need, whether it's therapy, medical services, we're always there. So the connections and the relationships that we've built over time, the trips that we go on, like, bar none, some of the best moments of my life have been on the road with our national team in competitions. The ability to say that I'm getting paid to do this and to travel around the world, like, you have to pinch yourself, like, not to be cheesy, but like occasionally you have to pinch yourself, and you just kind of think about, you know, how one thing led to another, and being in the opportunity to kind of, you know, experience these things with the people that we have a chance to experience them, representing Canada on your chest. Like, no better honor, man. And like, those are the most fun times, like obviously the games and the competitions and on all of that, but on the road, when you're traveling, you're in a hotel room. We have a group of guys, very close friends of mine from the staff, James DePoe and Sebastian Arnold, who are our managers. Or Sebastian's our director of operations at Canada Basketball, does an incredible job. James DePoe is like probably the best team operations manager in the world when it comes to international basketball. There's no doubt in my mind. And every night, we go, after all the stuff's happened, we get back into our hotel rooms and we put on, like, if we played a game, our work gets done, and whether it's like midnight, if the game was a little bit earlier, or 1 or 2 a.m., the game's going on and we're watching it and we're talking about it, and we're like, we have our little rewatches every night. And those are memorable moments, and the dinners and the relationship you build with players over time. Like, incredible honor. I wouldn't trade it for the world, and it's been a wild ride.
Well, hopefully it keeps going, man. Like,
Yes.
you know, I wanted to ask you about the World Cup team, a process to obviously qualify. I remember the qualifier in Edmonton in that November window that clinched it. A great picture with everybody around center court at the end. I think that's an iconic moment for the program. And then obviously that tournament. I know I'll remember that team forever. Just that summer in itself and the run. You know, what are your takeaways from that group, that team, and just I wanted to ask if maybe, you know, this, as you're making your way through that tournament, I've asked the players like Phil and Trey are part of that team. Kyle just joined us last episode, Kyle Alexander. But you know, was there a sense going through the tournament like, hey, this is going to be a special run, like we're going to do something really cool here? Was there a lot of discussion about that?
Well, I mean, we had the expectation, like, our goal was to come in and qualify for the Olympics and win a medal. Like, that was what we were set out to do, from the get-go, from like a high level end of tournament goal. So that's what we were going in ready to do. And then Jordy and the coaching staff really kind of, okay, we still have sort of, you know, 1 game series though that we got away, like 1 game at a time. We got the group stage. The initial first part was a 3 1-game series, and we got our 2 1-game series in the second phase of the group stage. And then once you got into the quarterfinals and beyond. So though, again, that group of guys, like the mix and the togetherness of the team with you know, all the way from the top with the leaders, there was Shea, you know, Dylan bringing his energy and his incredible way of still connecting the group and taking care of some of the younger guys like Zach and all those guys in the tournament. And then those younger guys, Zach still being, you know, involved in everything and then bought in and really coming with the whole group. And then Nikhil playing his role off the bench, like Lou, RJ, Kelly, Dwight, the guys that have been around there the longest. Like Kelly had gone from going 0-5, I think it was in 2010 at the World Cup, being on that team as a young teenager, and then now qualifying for the Olympics. And the way that group kind of got together in a short period of time, we had some really fun, cool moments over that trip that helped solidify that, I think. And, Jordy and Co, really good job getting everybody sort of bought into that and together. And I think MB Bartlett has talked about it too. Like, that group was really close, and it was a really, really special group. And that moment, I think he talked about this on your podcast as well, Maddie, when Bridges hit that 3 that sent it to overtime, or going to overtime against the US. And it was like, oh man, you know what? Another 5 minutes that this group gets to spend together, So
Yeah.
All of those moments are really special. That group was really, really tight. That was awesome. That was a really, really awesome summer for sure.
Yeah, it was, man, just from a fan standpoint, just such a cool ride. And I know personally, I think I watched the Spain game. I was in Vancouver on a little family trip. I watched the game in Kamloops, the home of KO, which is funny, and back here in Calgary. So yeah, just a special group, man, and such a cool tournament. And then obviously, to finally qualify for the Olympics was massive. 24 years.
Oh yeah.
Just a cool team, man. One that I'll always remember. And then it goes into the Olympics this past summer, man. Take me through.
Yeah.
Being there at the Olympics, just the whole experience on and off the floor, and obviously the game side. I'm sure everyone's a little disappointed and motivated to get going again. But just talk about the Olympics, man.
And 100%. And one other thing, you just like that Spain game. Sorry not to jump back, but like that Spain game in that World Cup, like that was one of the most unbelievable like basketball games. I think it was definitely the most unbelievable basketball game I've ever been a part of. But like, what a moment for Canada and like the country and men's basketball and the growth of that, and like the adversity that these guys dealt with through the course of the game, when it was back and forth. And then there's little moments that like stick out. And there was I remember when part of my role in these windows as well is to help the coaching staff. I don't sit on the bench in the Olympics and the World Cup, but I'm at the media table directly across the bench with my laptop, and we communicate some challenge information, whether the coaches giving them some feedback on whether to challenge a play or not. And there was so many moments where, like, I remember I can't remember who on Spain, but hits a 3 with a foul that happened at the same time, and the 3 goes in, but then they also called a foul against us. So it was like made 3 with 2 free throws because they were in bonus. And there's all these like little adversity moments that were piling up. And then, going down 10 in halftime and fighting all the way back, and then going down 12, going into the fourth quarter. And then, big play after big play to when Shea sealed the game. Like, that was, what a moment that was for Canada. I just wanted to say that because you brought it up, the memory of it. And I would be remiss if I didn't bring it up, man. That was unbelievable.
Yeah, no, it was like, I'm not gonna lie, man. Like, I probably cried. I remember being emotional because, like, it's been an up and down thing with the program for years, and I remember they had it on the broadcast post game, like Kelly and Dwight embracing in the locker room. Two warriors. You talk about how long, how far back Kelly goes to, the 2010 World Cup, and no, it was, man, such a cool moment, and really elevated the program. And it was great to see like our top players in that summer, like committing and playing, and wanting to do this and be leaders. So really cool. Yeah. And I know, like, there was great moments in Paris, no question. I think maybe a tough bounce, obviously, against France. But yeah, just talk about the Olympics, man.
No, for sure. It was, I mean, so when Rowan hired me in 2016, like, we're all like systems go to qualify for Tokyo in 2020. And that was like our agreement. We'd stick it out through those 4 years of Tokyo 2020 and kind of go from there. Obviously, the world changed a little bit. Some things happened. Satoransky hit a shot over Lugansk Dort. I definitely don't have nightmares about that still, but it is
Yeah.
it is what it is. And then not having to do that, and then regrouping and say, okay, 3 more years, let's get to Paris. So it's been a dream of mine to be a part of that, along with many other people that are involved with the program and just fans across the country, I'm sure as well, to kind of finally get back into the Olympics after all those years. So that was incredible. Like little moments from that. Obviously, we were gearing up through our training camp process and the game against the US in Vegas, and then going to France. And just, I remember, I'll never forget, like when we landed in, because there's, you know, when you really get into these like trips, like there's so much stuff going on. So it's easy to kind of get into it a little bit, and you're kind of moving from spot. Okay, what's the schedule today? At 2 p.m. we got to be here, and 3 p.m. and then flight. So you kind of get into the nitty gritty of it. But I remember landing in Paris after the Vegas game, and there just being like Olympic stuff everywhere. And like the reporters that were there waiting, because I think we were one of the first like federation, like NOC, like organizing like national teams to like land in France, because we were there about like 3 weeks or whatever, 2 weeks before the actual competition, whatever it ended up being. And be like, oh yeah, like here we go. Like another, obviously we knew we were, but another kind of reminder that like it's game time, and the excitement that comes with that competition. And then our prep process from we were in Blois, the team things that we did together, the bonding that happened, and then Orléans, where we played against France, and we had a scrimmage against them, and then we beat them in Orléans as well in front of a big crowd. So, you know, the group, you know, a lot of fun kind of getting that group together. And then it came with, you know, certain challenges as well that we'll continue growing through and learning from as an organization, as a team. And the Olympics are a different beast when it comes to any other international competition, because you have, you know, the village and the restrictions on accreditation and the way the team moves and the security and all. It's such a massive, it's like, it's the craziest event on planet Earth, because there's so many moving pieces. And it's like, on a whole, it's incredible that they pull it off. But then those like little moments, James DePoe would talk about this forever, but like the little moments, like in it, you're just like, why is this so disorganized to a point? But it's also like, there's so many things going on. It's like the rules are always changing, and like what you can. So dealing with all those things, it was a good learning experience for us. But those games in Lille were incredible. Like the guys dealing with adversity, you know, from our opening game against Greece, you know, when, you know, Giannis enforcing his will in many different ways, but still being resilient and bouncing back through that. And then a tough first half against Australia, and really pulling away in the second half against Australia. And those games are crazy. Like that was I'm sure you obviously know, but it was a soccer stadium that was converted into basketball courts. There's like 25,000 plus fans there at every game. The atmosphere was incredible. To see the Olympic logo and all the things, and to really be a part of that, what an incredible journey. But, you know, you're in it. We're in the games. We're focusing. We went 3-0, obviously, in the group stage. The Spain game, we were up, but then Spain did Spain, and they claw their way back. And, you know, Louis and all these other guys start making some shots, and it gets close. And then, you know, moving to Paris as a group. Now we're all together in a hotel in Paris as one again. And like you said, that was a tough draw. We were excited to take France and beat France at home, and they punched us in the face, and we punched back, and it was back and forth, and it was a 4-point game with 5 minutes left, and they ended up pulling it out. So obviously disappointing, like from just an expectation standpoint, to not kind of plow through that. But again, grateful for the run and the experience, and like you said, motivated, I think, as well. Like, we're so fortunate. If you look at our group, like how many of those guys, okay, the legends of our program, the Kellys and the Dwights, are a little bit older, of course, but like so many of those other parts of the program have been there for many years, but are also so young. So we'll have other opportunities to kind of get back at it, and just motivating for us to really, having tasted that stage and had left with that feeling in our mouth of, you know, bitter disappointment, being ready to just work all the more harder that we can, and figure out as a organization, as Canada Basketball, to put the guys in the best possible place to stand on the top of the podium in LA. So really excited for that.
Yeah, awesome stuff, man. I know, you know, like RJ Barrett recently said, I think in an interview, he's just like, you know, he wishes he could play in the next Olympics, you know, today, right? Like there is a lot of motivation there for the guys, and you know, just really cool to see the program in that stage though for the senior men's finally. And there was, you know, a lot of great things. And like you said, 5 minutes left and down 4, and it was right there. So the core of the this team will likely be in LA,
Yeah.
God willing, with health and
Oh,
whatnot. So, and then new pieces coming in for sure. Really, really excited for that.
yeah, 100%. And sorry to interrupt,
No, go.
I think the French fans, it was a really good atmosphere in Paris, and they sang the national anthem like a cappella, just like singing it while the game was going on back to back times at the end of the game. And I remember just like sitting there, I was sitting next to Mwad in like the media booth, and we were just like seething, like
Yeah.
it was a close game, but seething, be like, man, I can't wait. Like, let's play it again tomorrow. Like, so
Yeah.
excited for another opportunity to do that.
Who's impressed you that you've coached or worked with? As from a player that you didn't maybe know so well, and then through the years now, like who's really impressed you with not only skill but character? When
Yeah.
they come and play for the program, I'm sure many stand out, but can you think
Yeah.
of one or two guys?
Yeah, I mean, and we'll talk about some of these the guys that have been so instrumental in the windows a little bit later, probably. But I think if you look at our core, like our leaders and kind of core group of guys that played in the World Cup and in the past Olympics, like I didn't have an opportunity to work directly with Shea. I obviously, he would come into our camps and I would follow and observe until 2022 when he came as a part of that. He was obviously on the 2016 OQT with Jay Triano. I wasn't yet at Canada Basketball then, but really taking on like the growth of his career since then, and then coming on, like you obviously know who he is and what he is based on what you see, but like how much work goes into what he does, and like the time and the focus and the attention to detail, and then just being at the same time the most loving, kind, and like down to earth human. Like he really is a special guy. Always like a smile on his face. He's always kind of dancing a little bit and having a good time. And like just observing him and being around him, his energy is infectious. And you're almost like, wow, like this is so fun. Like how lucky are we to be in his presence and in the presence of these other guys, and really learn and be with them through this. So like going, watching him, and then the workouts that he would do before, after practice, like we'd go early before, like our team practice would start at 10 a.m. And like we would be in the gym with Nathaniel Mitchell, him and a couple of other guys on a separate car to the gym early, because he wants to make sure he's putting, I mean, it goes without saying. Like Dylan, I knew as well a little bit. He played in 2018 in the World Cup qualifiers back in the summer of 2018, early in his career. And to see him kind of come back consistently, and then being around the team in 2022, even though he didn't play, he was still he was around in our training camps. And just like another guy that just the energy but love that he brought, like constantly about being himself. I didn't know him well before that, and just like observing him, I mean, and his work ethic, and like he was one of the guys, like we have obviously our scouting reports that we put on for every of obviously opponent that we're going to play, and the personnel edits and all that kind of stuff. You can kind of see who looks at those and who doesn't, and all of our guys are really good, but he's like 150%, like every time, like every scout, every like he's on it, asking questions. Why do you have this? So like that preparation, like whatever, I'm not even going to waste our time talking about the narrative that exists, but this guy is locked in.
Yeah.
And he's spectacular, and it is no surprise that he's built the career and the any team he's on. Like he's a guy that you want on our team any day of the week. I mean, we could honestly, Maddie, like I'll go down the list of 12 and talk about all of our guys. All of them bring something special. Right. It was cool seeing RJ from 15 years old all the way through to where he's at now, and like the career that he's built out for himself. Like now the way he's playing with the Raptors and leading that group and all of that. From Kelly and Dwight, and then Nikhil sparking us off the bench, Lou Gensdor, like all those guys, man. Those guys are all amazing.
No, it's like I've had a couple what-ups with interactions with Shea, like, and actually one in Vegas this past summer at the showcase stands out. Like I tripped through the team hotel there, like Bartlett kind of told me where I was staying at, and I was just I wanted to talk to Muad. I know Muad a little bit, show some love, and Shea was coming off the elevator, and people, more fans were there, like, oh, there's SGA, and he's making time to just make somebody's day every time, saying what up to a lot of people. And Dylan, I just think What a cool dude, just in terms of what he does for the team. Like he takes care of people. I've heard. I think it was
Yes.
Trey. Trey told me how he took care of Zach over at the World
Yep.
Cup, made sure
Yeah.
Zach had what he needed, and two real great guys to represent the program. I'd have to agree with you, man. Like just
Yeah.
really cool, man.
Really, really cool. And just great human beings too, like incredible leaders and just like representatives of our sport across the country. And knowing everybody, like regardless, and this is something that Jordy did really well, is regardless of whether you're Shay, Rowan, or our, assistant equipment manager that's working long hours doing laundry and all that, knowing everyone's names, asking by name, how's your day going, everything good, like, so it goes a long way for building a community and a family, for sure.
Love it. Who is Phil Jevtovic's top 5
Yeah.
for Canada basketball?
Yeah, this was great. And the way I'm going to approach this one is that actually ends up, I think, working out well, because we talked about some of these other kind of staples of our summer window teams with our Olympics and World Cup. We gave them their time, and those guys are spectacular. But I think the way I'm going to approach this is really the guys that I've been around from these windows, whether it was, some of the summer windows, but like the November and February windows. So that's kind of the idea behind some of these names here. The relationships we've built with these guys coming in and out. It's like every time you see them, it might be a couple of months, but you're right back into conversations and everything. It's been pretty cool to see. So these are my guys. I mean, I leading off with Trey Bell-Haynes, like,
nice.
You can't say enough about Trey, like ultimate competitor. You see it in the way his career, like I think he had like one scholarship offer coming out of Bill Crothers with Coach Charles Henton-Makos going to Vermont. And then now he's scoring 35 on Barcelona, and Barcelona's probably like, damn, we should have signed him when we had the opportunity to sign him. So maybe another opportunity will come up, but ultimate competitor, but then like just the team cohesion part of it. And I remember like I was sitting with John Goodwillie and a couple other people back in Saskatoon, and we're just like, the vibe was just so great, and these guys are playing cards and talking as they always do, and we're like, like Trey, these guys, like Trey and Aaron and these guys, like, it's awesome, man, like how much passion and energy they bring to all that. I a little other aside on Trey, he's kind of one of the guys that I've probably been amongst the closest with over the years that I've been really growing through the program at the same time. Like when he first played, I want to say it was fall of 2018, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, something around that. I think it was a Chile window that we played one game in September or something like that. And he was, moving through his career, staying in touch with him always throughout the year, and seeing us grow. We worked together at the World Cup. We'd watch video together and kind of go from there. So he's awesome, man. So big respect to Trey. I won't go as long on these other guys. I got a little carried away there, I promise. But have to, like, Phil and Tommy. Like Phil and Tommy, period. You know what I mean? Like, just Phil and Tommy, like legends, right? Like, what more do you need to say? Like, absolute legends. 12 out of 12 games in the World Cup, like qualifiers, always there whenever their name's called. Like, we do a thing with our junior academy athletes where we have a set of awards that we give to all of our athletes. And, obviously we'll have like a couple named after a few of the NBA guys, but we always make sure to include some of these Windows guys. Like there's the Phil and Tommy awards, like just these, and these guys know, like, they will learn about Phil and Tommy. They will learn about their commitment and their sacrifice and that they've put towards our program. And everybody, like, they'll learn about them, they'll know them, they'll study them, they'll watch them, because they truly are incredible. Like, can't say enough about those two guys. We had a little funny thing that, like, Tommy, obviously a spectacular player, and the way he kind of scores and the pressure he puts on the paint, he has those kind of unorthodox little, like, leaning floaters that he always hits. And we have a little bit where we call him, especially amongst myself, James DePoe, and when we're on the bench during the windows, it's like sometimes he'll score, and again, I hope I can swear, but it's just like, Tommy fucking scrub, man. Like, it's just Tommy fucking scrub. What else can you do? You know what I mean? Like, what can you do? It's just TFS.
LeBron couldn't stop him in Vegas with it, man.
Exactly. So those two guys are amazing. Two more guys to round it out. My guy, Aaron Best. Aaron and I are the same age. We are both kind of both grew up in Toronto, playing basketball in Toronto. I played against him for many years. To be clear, I was on the basketball court with Aaron for many years.
Yeah.
And so to see his growth and development and the way the career he's built for himself and family, incredible. I remember the first window we were together in, it was February in Bahamas in 2018, and those games, and he's always come back, represented Canada whenever called for, the ultimate team, and he's always played so well for us, and the ultimate team guy. Like even in this past window, he started the first game, a little bit of a rejig based on some matchups and some other situational stuff. He doesn't start the same game. So incredible dude, man. Aaron Best is special, just like all these guys. And the last guy I'll have to round it out is the one of the OGs, Melvin Edgem. Another guy that you just kind of say, wow, like what a career, how much he's given to Canada and to leading all these younger guys the last couple of windows, last couple of major competitions in the Olympics, and then getting that chance to be, finally earned Olympian in the Paris team. Sister as well on the women's team is pretty cool, and that like just another legend of the program. So when I think of like top 5 favorite 5, like these winter windows guys, like it's almost like a warm fuzzy every time the winter's windows gets together. And I know it's hard for them with the travel, but hopefully, we've got feedback from them. They share that the environment that's created, this is an opportunity for them to reconnect with their people, with their family, and get back into it, and it will help them get better in the time that they're with us as well. But it's always special, all of those windows. So that's all I got, man.
No, those are bangers, man, because they've done a lot. They pulled the program through and through, and I think they deserve a lot of shine. And that's what I like about the those winter windows too. You get a chance to see these guys come back, represent, commit, sacrifice. So I would always be right beside you, supporting those guys too, because it's vital, and they deserve a lot of shine, man. And we're fortunate to have a lot of them join us too here, so we appreciate that. Phil, man, anyone you'd like to see join us on Canada Hoops? Who's got a good Canada basketball story that should pull up?
Yeah, man. And have you had? I don't know if you've had Michael Meeks on or Nathaniel Mitchell, either of those guys. Have you had?
I have not. Okay. No, I've reached out to Meeks.
Hey, he's big time, man. He's a hard guy to get in touch with. And when he doesn't have, when there's no basketball stuff going on, which is like never, he's got his boat. He's in Hamilton Harbor. So you might have to someone have to take a boat over down there to catch him. But I've learned a ton from him. We can get him. Obviously, we'll find a way to get in touch. The other name, maybe Nathaniel Mitchell, but either of those guys would be great guests. Meeksy's seen some stuff with Canada basketball over the years, so he's gone through it. Those guys have crazy stories, man, from brawls in Australia before the Sydney Olympics. I feel like I could recite some of those stories. I've heard them so many times, but they're all great.
Yeah, another guy off the 2000 team would be really cool. I mean, that would be a special
Led the team
one.
in scoring. That's our go-to trivia question for our junior academy kids: is which guy led the team in scoring at the 2000 Olympics? And
there you go.
They don't always get that one.
Oh, man. Any shout outs or thank yous before I get you out of here? And again, man, we truly appreciate this. And this has been a lot of fun.
No, it's been so much fun, Maddie. Thanks a lot for having me on. I really appreciate it. We talked a little bit about it before, but thanks for your work, kind of amplifying all of the voices of the people that you've had on the podcast and in our basketball community, and many guests like you talked about that, are pillars of Canadian basketball but might not have the opportunity to get as much consistent shine as especially some of the players as they have. So really appreciate you, man. Thanks for that. Other than that, no, I've shouted out a bunch of people, grateful for the support and growth I've had through Canada basketball. And there is still a lot of sacrifice from a time standpoint. So just I'm grateful for my family and friends as well. So yeah, that's it, man. Thanks so much.
No, we appreciate that. And that's a wrap. Another episode of Canada Hoops. I want to thank Philip Jevtovic for pulling up. Thank you for listening. Remember to rate and review us wherever you get your podcast. Check out our YouTube channel. Hit us up on Instagram and x.com. Keep supporting Canada basketball, and we will see you on the next episode.